Hi, thank you very much for joining us this evening for the Gold Coast Neighborhood Association Neighborhood Update. My name is Vern Broders. I'm president of Gold Coast Neighbors. We are pleased that you could join us for this first online neighborhood update from the Gold Coast Neighbors Association. We hope you find this new way of connecting Gold Coast Neighbors Association with you, our members and friends, to be an effective means of communicating within our neighborhood. I want to thank the committee that put this together from our Gold Coast Neighbors Association board, and we hope this provides you with more details about what's going on in our neighborhood. The Gold Coast Neighbors Association works to ensure that our neighborhood is a safe, beautiful, and welcoming community. As an all-volunteer organization, we do these things because we are passionate about where we live. The Gold Coast Neighbors Association's mission is to build a sense of community and enhance our quality of life by advocating on behalf of our members, by serving as a forum for community issues and historical education, by fostering friendship among our neighbors, and promoting safety, preservation, and beautification. In line with this mission, we have been a forum for the most important discussions regarding zoning matters and safety matters, and other matters such as proposals for cannabis dispensaries. We will be touching on many of these matters tonight. Our agenda includes safety issues and the safety patrol, zoning issues and an update on the cannabis dispensaries, a visit from Alderman Brian Hopkins for the 2nd Ward, as well as a visit by Alderman Michelle Smith for the 43rd Ward. Plus, we'll talk about the latest news on Gold Coast Neighbors Association events. Now, I would like to introduce our Safety Committee Chair, Sam Lichtenfeld, for an update on safety in the Gold Coast neighborhood.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sam Lichtenfeld, Safety Committee Chair at Gold Coast Neighbors Association. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy. Besides the urgent need for a haircut, we at the Safety Committee are doing well. Tonight, I'm here to share with you developments in safety and security for our neighborhood. The past 10 days have obviously been quite disturbing in the Gold Coast. We have had our security problems before, even before the George Floyd protests broke out, and we're going to talk about the general situation as well this evening. First and foremost, for much of the last decade, we have run our safety patrol. Our current partner in this endeavor is Universal Security. You've likely seen its cars roving the neighborhood, lending an extra set of eyes and ears to supplement the work of our police department. Generally, the safety patrol begins from 9 p.m. and goes until 5 a.m. on the weekends, but this is subject to change based on circumstances. Around the time of the Laquan McDonald verdict, for example, we changed and increased the hours and routes. Likewise, during the current protests, we are proud to say that we could secure patrols during daytime hours almost every day since the weekend violence broke out. This supplements the nighttime hour shifts that we had. Universal runs a route that generally spans our area, but can also be changed at our request depending on situational needs. The patrol coordinates with both the police department and representatives from the cluster of bars on Division Street to make sure that our resources are being used properly. While generally you may see the patrols start a little south of Division Street and go up to North Boulevard, we are very careful not to overlap the police or bar security patrols so as to use our resources wisely. Every week we get reports from Universal based on incidents in the neighborhood, which also get reported to the police. We use this data to figure out any needed route, time changes, or other tweaks to our program. As a reminder, our security patrol exists entirely due to the generosity of our neighbors. Whether it's through direct donation or through investments you make at our events, we could not run the patrol without your help. And this is an integral policy and service that we at Gold Coast Neighbors believe benefits our neighborhood now more than ever. Additionally, we also think that you should know that we take these recent events in our neighborhood very seriously and are working to continue our response to them in the most appropriate fashions. As you probably know, starting the weekend of May 30th, protests turned into looting sprees in our neighborhood and many others. Eventually, order was restored through the good work of the Chicago Police Department and the National Guard. Our area is on the very northern edge of what essentially was a locked down zone for a while, as the mayor restricted access not only to the Loop, but to other main streets, including many of our own here on the near north side. The troubles caused scenes not usually seen in this neighborhood. Many stores placed wood boards over their windows and doors, in many cases for stores that had not been looted and more as a preventative measure. Graffiti that looked very unfamiliar popped up as well, as our neighborhood was used both as a transit point and a destination for both peaceful protesters and looters alike. Fortunately, that situation has calmed down significantly, and you may have noticed the National Guard is drawing down its presence here, but our safety patrol continues its job. Especially during these times, we should remind ourselves of what the safety patrol can and can't do. It cannot charge someone with a crime, though it can apprehend suspects, report crime, and take other actions that may lead to someone being charged with a crime. Also, as we discovered, our security patrol must stand down when there's a curfew if ordered to do so. On a lighter note, the Safety Committee continues to coordinate with the police department as well as running the patrol. We frequently meet, though virtually nowadays, with the police department to coordinate policies and learn about events that they are running which may be of interest to our neighborhood. Recently, we made a donation to the 18th District in the name of Commander Paul Bauer, the 18th District's former commander who died in the line of duty in February of 2018. And my colleagues here at Gold Coast Neighbors Association have hosted a popular series of seminars on everything safety related, from CPR to personal safety to home security. These are just a few examples of how we stay involved and committed to our neighborhood's safety and security. Finally, we are always looking for ways to improve. Whether it's investigating the opportunity to coordinate private camera systems voluntarily, to coordinating telephone chains between neighborhood buildings' doorman stations to report an incident when it occurs in real time, to running seminars about the personal safety as I just discussed. We understand that our sense of security is an essential element in what makes a neighborhood great. We take it very seriously and welcome your involvement and suggestions. As always, we appreciate your continued support of Gold Coast Neighbors Association generally and of our safety efforts specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate all the work your safety committee is doing to keep our neighborhood as safe as possible. Next, I'd like to introduce our zoning chair, Mr. Michael Perlstein, and he will give us an update on matters about zoning and cannabis dispensaries in the neighborhood.
The zoning committee reviews requests and building permit applications for changes that would affect the neighborhood. And we take a look carefully whether the projects promote or hinder safety, add or detract from architectural heritage of our neighborhood. Does it increase or decrease the harmonious interaction of our neighbors? And does it appear to enhance or detract from neighborhood property values? One thing to always be mindful of, the city of Chicago does not permit us to be a design review board. And so what one neighbor likes about a particular project from an architectural standpoint, we don't necessarily have control over that. That being the case, what's first and foremost in everybody's mind right now is the cannabis dispensaries that have been earmarked for our area. And I have some new information, so I wanted to get with that first. But just to refresh everybody's recollection, we were given notice that an application for a cannabis dispensary for Division Street was filed back in March. And that would be for a special use purpose. And in order to receive a special use, the applicant would have to show that it complies with all applicant standards. It's in the interest of public convenience, will not have a significant adverse effect on the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. It's compatible with the character of the area. It's compatible with operating characteristics regarding operation, outdoor lighting, noise, traffic, and is designed to promote pedestrian safety and comfort. And it's up to the dispensaries to put up experts to affirm each of these requirements. Now, we all know the bottom line of this has to do with what your feelings are regarding a cannabis dispensary in your backyard. Whether or not it's legal or not, people say, well, we're okay with it, but not in my backyard. Gold Coast Neighbors disseminated a survey to our members, and the survey was sent to 597 members. And the response came back that the lion's share of people were pretty favorable about legalization of medicinal cannabis. They were even favorable about necessarily having recreational cannabis. They were not favorable about having a dispensary in the Gold Coast. Based upon the survey, Gold Coast Neighbors hired independent counsel to help us navigate what this really represents to us. Navigate the Cannabis Regulation Act and to sort of understand how we were going to necessarily navigate this based upon the filing, and knowing the fact that today our aldermen do not have aldermanic veto power, even though they do like to listen to their constituents. A second cannabis application was filed for 12 to 14 West Maple. A lot of things have transpired. However, as of today, I have some new information for everybody. We do not know at the next Zoning Board of Appeals, which is set for June 26th, we do not know if any applications are going to be on the agenda. But I can tell you that Cresco Labs has asked to remove their application for the 24 to 29 West Division site. And on June 4th, they filed a new application for a special use application for 67 to 75 West Chicago Avenue. Why did they do that? Number one, there's a confluence of multiple reasons, most likely, that this was done. First of all, significant community output asking to the alderman, and an outcry rejecting that this application should be rejected. Number two, there is a process to apply for a cannabis-free zone. Very, very difficult process. In order to comply with this process, an application has to be filed within 90 days that has more than 25% of the registered voters of a precinct. What that really means, and unfortunately, the second ward, which is where the site on Division Street exists, makes up multiple precincts. But the particular precinct is a matter of having to obtain enough signatures. It's very difficult. There are not a lot of necessarily single-family homes in the area, a lot of buildings. Couple that with the fact that we have COVID. So it was not easy to go around and necessarily obtain all these signatures. However, I know that those that were involved with this did their best, and we don't know the results of that petition. But most likely that helped. And also, the site on Division Street is less than 1,500 feet from the 12 to 14 West Maple. And because of that, they're no longer able to be within the statute. Two dispensaries cannot exist within 1,500 feet of each other. Based upon that, I think that we feel confident that that is probably why Cresco has asked to remove their application from the website. The application for the dispensary on Maple, we've not yet been given a date when that will appear before the ZBA, but everybody will be advised. And so I think that that's pretty much where we are on cannabis right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Michael, thank you for taking care of zoning. We don't have any big new building permits to talk about right now, but that was plenty to talk about that concerns our neighborhood. So thank you very much. I am now going to introduce Alderman Brian Hopkins from the Second Ward. And Brian has recorded a short video for us that updates us on his view of the Gold Coast and how it intersects with the Second Ward. Roger, you want to put that up? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Second Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins, coming to you virtually through this meeting. Wish I could be in your presence physically, but obviously during these times, we're all getting used to meeting electronically. I'm recording this message on Thursday, and I just received a briefing from the Chicago Police for what they're predicting this weekend. We do expect more demonstrations and protests. We can't predict whether they will degrade into violent looting as we saw last weekend. But the emphasis for much of Saturday will be on the lakefront. That is the selected target area, and we will be having a police presence accordingly. So I hope by the time you see this next week, things will have settled down and we'll have gotten through the upcoming weekend with minimal damage and hopefully no injuries. Everybody, please stay safe. And if you can avoid going out, trying to use Lakeshore Drive, it's always a good idea during uncertain times like this. I was asked to provide an update for some of the more routine issues that confront us all right now. I remain staunchly opposed to any cannabis dispensaries in the Gulf Coast area. There's 2 applications that are active with a third one pending. I do not believe this is the right fit for our community right now for all the reasons that I stated previously, and I join with this association in opposing it. While I also express my opposition to the process where, as an alderman, I do not have direct authority over this. I can only make a suggestion, and the administration is free to disregard my suggestion if they so choose, which they have done recently with other aldermen. So I say that not to absolve myself of responsibility. I actually would prefer to have the authority and the responsibility in a case like this, rather than have my aldermanic office reduced to an advisory capacity, which is what the mayor has currently done. So I just want everyone to know where I stand on this and what the stakes are going forward. We will be having additional virtual meetings, and there is an opportunity for community input going forward. And I know most people stand in opposition to cannabis dispensaries in the Gold Coast. Another routine matter, of course, is our summer construction program. We'll be going forward with our repaving. We're going to be focusing on Dearborn, on State, Wells, and Clark. During this pandemic, while traffic is down, we're trying to do as much infrastructure work as we can. So eventually, when we emerge from this, we'll have a city that's in good condition with clean streets and hopefully businesses that have reopened as we now go into phase 3. You're seeing a lot of restaurants that are determined, it's a matter of their survival for many of them, to open up and properly, safely adhere to social distancing and still serve their customers. Many of your favorite restaurants and my favorite restaurants in the Gold Coast are either reopened or are gradually reopening. The best thing we can do right now is to support them. They need our business. They need us as customers. It is literally a matter of survival for them. My office remains open. We respond to every email. We respond to every phone call. If there's anything that we can do for you during this uncertain time, please call me. It's our pleasure to serve you and provide you with that sense of continuity. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, Alderman Hopkins. I appreciate that update. Fortunately, we did get through the weekend that he was referring to without any major difficulty. I'd like to now turn it over to Alderman Michelle Smith, who can give us an update on the 43rd Ward and the role as it touches the Gold Coast neighbors area as well. Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you, everyone, from my office. Those are my children and grandkids behind me, who I unfortunately haven't been able to see since Christmas as a result of these events. And I know we are all missing our families. And I can only hope that all of you have had good health throughout this. It's been stressful for a lot of reasons. I'm going to talk about some of that. First of all, what the city just went through has been gut-wrenching, sad, and will for sure impact us for a long time in many, many ways. And I'm really committed to working with all of you, all my friends on the Gold Coast, to make sure that our city has a healthy economy, good outcomes, and we address some of the underlying terrible, terrible social issues that have really plagued us for a long time. I will say, I do want to talk to you about the thing that we were in before the thing that we were in, which was COVID. And I want you to know, I want to give you some reassurance as to where we are with COVID. The first thing I wanted to tell you is a little bit of statistics. And I'm afraid my statistics are only for the 60614 zip code. So if you're in 11, you can actually look these statistics up on the city's data portal. I want you to know that for the 60614 zip code, for people who say that that is where they live when they go to see a doctor, the whole zip code has only had 245 cases. And today, the positive testing rate, that means if 100 people go for a test, 5.8 of them are coming back positive. Those rates are also quite true in the rest of the report, in the 60614. And I want that to give you a little bit of confidence that we really are turning the tide on this virus. There are still parts of the city where it's quite high, which is why I've been very reluctant to support reopening the lakefront at this time. Our parks have just opened, but we all know that the lakefront is so crowded and so popular that it's really been hard to even, take on this notion of social distancing. So for everyone's protection, I'm urging the city to go slow on the lakefront, even though we all love the lakefront and we take our walks there and we take our dogs there. But I'm a strong proponent of social distancing, of wearing masks the minute you leave your apartment. And I hope you're all really doing that. This particularly applies to those of us who are over 60, and I am 65, so I'm part of that demographic. And we're all staying home a whole lot more and really being careful. In fact, I think over the weekend was the first time in a long time that my husband and I had a socially distanced evening with one of our friends who are as paranoid about our health as we are. And so I really, really encourage you to be safe when you're outside. Having said that, the city has been really thoughtful and unfortunately harsh on our local businesses. That's why I'm delighted that Rush Street has reopened as really or is in the process of reopening as the first closed down street area to allow for safe outdoor dining. This is a wonderful concept, and we are working very hard to bring some of that to the Lincoln Park area. The other thing that we're doing is I'm supporting an ordinance that I think is going to be introduced Thursday, that will allow sidewalk cafes to have longer frontages. Because sometimes a restaurant has a sidewalk cafe in front of a bank, and the bank is closed when you're going out. So it would allow the sidewalk cafes to go further down the street in order to enjoy dining. I think it is safe to go out now. If you wear a mask when you get there, you sit down, you take your mask off, you enjoy your meal, you put your mask on and leave. I do, because we've been so good. Our communities have really been very good about social distancing. So I want to assure you that we are on the downside of this COVID thing. And I will say this about the protesters. Look at the picture of the young people who were marching through Lincoln Park the other day, down Clark Street. All those young people were wearing masks. And whether or not you agree or disagree with what they were doing, they were protecting themselves and their families. And I'm actually very proud of that. That they frankly abided by the rules about wearing a mask in public more than many of us do when we're out on the street. And now I'm going to try to rush it. So that's one issue. Secondly, I do want to say there's one other thing, though, that we're not doing so well on, and that's the U.S. Census. I know that seems stupid right now, but if the Gold Coast doesn't start answering the census, we are going to not only possibly lose a congressman, we're going to lose money. And for those of us who hate the notion of property taxes going up, it is a fact that for every single person who answers the census, there's something like $1,500 a head of federal money that goes. And I think it's actually much more. We got almost, I'm going to get the money. I think I see Yoni Pizer's on the phone with me too. I may get the dollar amount wrong. We get billions and billions of dollars in federal aid. And if we don't say we live here, a lot of that per capita stuff we don't get. So if you're in Florida right now and you're tuning into this meeting, but you usually live in the Gold Coast, please go online to Census 2020 and fill it in. The Gold Coast has one of the lowest return rates right now in our ward. That and the DePaul kids. So I'm really begging you to answer the census. Just take a minute. If you didn't get the thingy in the mail, you can still go online. If you can't figure out on the email, you're all doing Zoom. That means you can go online and do the census. The last thing I'm going to talk about right now is that I really think you owe a great debt to your security company. We worked through these times of trouble with the private security companies in our ward, and they really helped us to know what was going on. And we also are very grateful that the city made the decision to put the National Guard here. I don't know if that would have been, I don't think that would have been an appropriate decision in our neighborhoods. Some of us are old enough to remember some bad things that have happened with the National Guard and young people. And I didn't favor even letting that be a possibility. The city decided instead to work with private security companies, and that worked. And because the National Guard was here, that allowed police resources to be brought elsewhere. I hope that we don't have this kind of event in our city again. And I know that the Gold Coast neighbors are going to work really hard, along with all of us, to try to help make our city better. On a couple small things or cleanup things, we are also going to get back in line to our normal, to our infrastructure projects. There's a few, you know, your streets are all the part of the ward that's the part of the streets that are in our ward are completely good, except for a thing or two. And we have some improvements to make on Inner Lakeshore Drive. But I want to assure you, I also want to repeat that those of you who take the bus, that I've been on the bus lately and it's been fine. I think pretty soon we should all feel comfortable going about our daily lives. If you have a medical condition, still be careful. That's absolutely true. And I just want to say how optimistic I am that things are actually going to get better. Thanks, Vern.
Well, thank you, Alderman Smith. I appreciate your update and encouraging words, and I hope we all will fill out that census if you haven't already. There's a couple more items for me to wrap up about. First of all, I wanted to mention that there is one development site that people may be curious about. The site is on the northwest corner of State and Division, and Newcastle Limited is intending to begin construction in the next several months. It will be a 12-story apartment building. It had gone through the planning board, and we had offered our comments along with Alderman Hopkins, and several changes were made which make it a little more suitable for our neighborhood. So it is not going to be a tall high-rise, but rather only a 12-story building. And the modifications will help us to have the delivery in the rear alleyway rather than on the street, and as well as improvements to the streetscape on that project. So thank you to Newcastle for listening to the neighborhood and helping us make that a fine quality addition to the building, to our neighborhood. They do also own the site on the southwest corner of Elm State, where the Barnes & Noble unfortunately has recently closed, but they have withdrawn their plans for that site. And right now they will be waiting for real estate conditions to change before they offer another proposal. I'd like to encourage all of those who are joining us tonight, if you are not already a Gold Coast Neighbors member, to go to our website at goldcoastneighbors.org, and you can register there for a nominal amount. You can be a member and receive much of this information regularly. And we would like to keep you informed on all of the matters of the neighborhood. One of the important matters, and disappointing for this year, is that we were unable to have a spring event due to COVID. And with the lack of understanding where COVID will lead over the summer, we took the difficult decision to cancel Evening Unanswered for this year. However, we hope that we can postpone that spring event into the fall. And so I would be looking for an invitation to a Gold Coast Neighbors event, perhaps in October. That is, we are waiting for the health experts to allow us to have larger events, and we'll see if we're able to in October. We do plan, however, on having an evening online Aster that will be just after Labor Day, and we encourage you to watch for further announcements about evening online Aster. We also very much hope to be back in the spring with our usual array of events, and we look forward to continuing to be of service to you, our neighbors, and to bring safety and hospitality to our neighborhood. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate it, and we encourage you to stay in touch. And if you have specific questions, please go to goldcoastneighbors.org, and we will be answering any and all questions that you have for us. Thank you.